December 16, 1944. 0530 hours. Schnee Eifel Ridge, on the Belgian-German frontier. The frozen earth snapped underfoot as German troops assembled for what would become their final great gamble, the Battle of the Bulge, the largest offensive they had attempted since 1940. Across the ridgeline, 200,000 Wehrmacht soldiers believed they understood their American opponents. They had been taught that U.S. troops relied on equipment, not courage, that citizen soldiers lacked the toughness of German fighters. Within hours, they would learn how disastrously mistaken that belief was. The cold arithmetic of firepower was about to erase every assumption the Germans held about American combat capability. Each U.S. infantryman carried what General George S. Patton later called, in a January 26, 1945 letter to the Chief of Ordnance, the greatest battle implement ever devised, the M1 Garand semi-automatic rifle. Against this weapon, the German bolt-action Kar 98K stood no chance. The average German rifleman in 1944 was using essentially the same weapon his father might have carried in 1918, a manually operated bolt-action rifle derived from the 1898 Mauser system. After every shot he was forced to cycle the bolt lift, pull, push, lock, limiting even the best marksman to roughly 15 accurate shots per minute. German infantry doctrine centered on the MG-42 machine gun. The rifleman existed largely to defend and supply the gun team. Their 98K rifles were considered supporting arms, meant for precision shots or self-protection. This tactic had worked from Poland to France to Russia, but the Americans had changed the nature of infantry warfare. Every American rifleman carried a semi-automatic weapon capable of firing 8 rounds as fast as he could squeeze the trigger, then reloading with a fresh end-block clip in under 3 seconds. Where a German squad fielded 1 machine gun and 9 bolt-action rifles, an American squad deployed 1 machine gun, 1 automatic rifle, and 11 semi-automatic rifles. The imbalance in firepower was enormous. The first clues appeared in North Africa in 1943, though many in the Wehrmacht dismissed them. After the fighting at Kasserine Pass, German officers reported that American infantry seemed to be equipped with semi-automatics on a large scale. Berlin's reaction showed its failure to comprehend American industrial strength. High command suggested the frontline units must be confusing M1 rifles with automatics or Thompson submachine guns. They insisted mass production of semi-automatic rifles was impossible. They could not have been more wrong. By February 1943, U.S. factories were producing over 4,000 M1 Garands per day, and by D-Day more than 3 million had been issued. Germany, even with forced labor and total mobilization, managed only limited runs of their own semi-automatic rifles. U.S. records from the North African campaign described German prisoners shaking their heads in disbelief when shown American production statistics. One captured report from Tunisia stated, "American infantry units appear to possess semi-automatic weapons as standard issue. This cannot be confirmed as it would demand industrial output beyond reasonable calculation." June 6, 1944, Omaha Beach. 0800 hours. The 352nd Infantry Division held the cliffs above Easy Red. After the battle, captured German documents described the astounding volume of American rifle fire. One after-action report observed, "Enemy infantry advances while maintaining uninterrupted rifle fire. No pauses for bolt operation noted. Fire volume matches or exceeds machine gun positions." The hedgerow battles in Normandy highlighted the imbalance even more sharply. At ranges under 100 meters, the German emphasis on long-distance precision became irrelevant. What mattered was how much accurate fire a unit could deliver in seconds. German training papers from the 3rd Fallschirmjäger Division in July 1944 recorded, "Enemy rifle squads produce firepower comparable to our machine gun emplacements. Standard suppression tactics are ineffective." German technical analysts examining captured Garands were stunned by the precision of American mass production. The gas-operated action cycled automatically. The end-block clip allowed rapid reloading. Most impressively, components from one rifle fit perfectly with those from any other, a level of interchangeability German factories could not reliably match. A Wehrmacht intelligence report from August 1944 noted, "The M1 rifle exhibits mass manufacturing methods we cannot duplicate. Parts remain interchangeable across thousands of units." Germany's answer, the G43, never reached meaningful numbers. Only around 40,000 were produced, compared to more than 5.4 million Garands. During the Battle of the Bulge, this disparity reached its peak. German attacks achieved surprise and numerical superiority in many sectors, yet American platoons, often isolated and outnumbered, held through sheer firepower. December 17, 1944, Elsinborn Ridge. Official U.S. Army interviews taken immediately afterward record that the 99th Infantry Division, outnumbered 3-1, held primarily through rapid, continuous rifle fire. One sergeant recalled, "We just kept shooting. 8 rounds, reload, 8 more. They couldn't push through the curtain of bullets." German casualties in the first week exceeded all estimates. A captured operations document from the 12th SS Panzer Division stated, "American small arms fire halts movement despite superior numbers. Every enemy position must be treated as an automatic weapon emplacement." By December 1944, American factories had produced more than 4 million M1 rifles. Springfield Armory reached its production peak in January 1944, manufacturing 122,000 M1 rifles that month, 3,936 per day, or 164 every hour. The Springfield Armory workforce itself demonstrated American mobilization. By June 1943, women comprised 43% of workers. 5,210 women among 1,295 total employees. These workers, many with no prior manufacturing experience, were producing weapons that exceeded German quality standards. Winchester Repeating Arms Company contributed 513,880 rifles to the war effort. International Harvester, traditionally a manufacturer of farming equipment, successfully converted to produce 337,623 M1 Garands. Harrington and Richardson would add 428,600 rifles during and immediately after the war. This distributed production meant no single bombing raid could disrupt American rifle manufacturing. The M1 Garand fundamentally changed infantry tactics. American squads could conduct marching fire assaults, advancing while maintaining continuous fire superiority. Official U.S. Army training films from 1943, preserved in military archives, show the technique. Soldiers advancing in bounds. Each man capable of delivering 8 aim shots while moving. German tactical doctrine codified in their 1943 infantry manual reared assumed bolt-action rifles for fire and movement. Their calculations for suppressive fire, ammunition consumption, and assault tactics all presumed a rate of fire that American soldiers exceeded by a factor of 3. U.S. Army Field Manual 7-10, Infantry Rifle Company, 1944 edition, built entire tactical concepts around semi-automatic firepower. The semi-automatic M1 rifle provides the foundation of infantry firepower. All tactical movements assume sustained fire capability of the rifle squad. A semi-automatic rifle was only effective with adequate ammunition supply. Here too, American industry achieved remarkable scales. Lake City Army Ammunition Plant in Missouri, covering 3,900 acres, produced billions of rounds during the war years. While specific 30-06 production cannot be verified, total ammunition output reached 7 billion rounds, sufficient to maintain unprecedented volumes of fire. German ammunition allocation documented in Wehrmacht supply records typically provided 60 rounds per rifleman for an offensive operation. American soldiers carried 80 rounds in end block clips as basic load, with unlimited resupply available from the vast logistics network supporting them. January 1945. The German offensive had stalled and American forces counterattacked in bitter cold. Winter conditions that should have favored defenders instead demonstrated another M1 advantage. Cold weather severely affected bolt-action rifle operation. Frozen hands struggled with bolt manipulation. Oil thickened, making action stiff. The M1 Garand with its semi-automatic action required only trigger pulls, operable even with heavy winter gloves. The end block clip could be loaded quickly with numb fingers, while German soldiers had to load individual rounds into their KR-98K magazines. U.S. Army medical records from the Battle of the Bulge note significantly lower frostbite casualties among American riflemen compared to German forces, partly attributed to less exposure during reloading and firing sequences. March 1945. As American forces prepared to cross the Rhine, German defenders faced impossible mathematics. A Wehrmacht planning document captured at Reyeragen calculated defensive requirements based on traditional firepower ratios. It assumed one defender could engage 3 attackers, standard military doctrine since Napoleon. But this calculation presumed equal rates of fire. With M1 Garands, American attackers could generate 3 times the fire rate of German defenders. The traditional mathematics of defense collapsed. The Rhine crossing succeeded with lower casualties than planners anticipated, largely due to overwhelming small arms fire suppressing German positions. The M1 Garand story was inseparable from American industrial mobilization. Springfield Armory in Massachusetts transformed from a modest government arsenal to a massive production facility. The main production building stretched over a mile in length. Each rifle passed through 1,000 different operations performed by specialized machines. Production reached extraordinary efficiency. In 1940, producing one M1 Garand required 117 man-hours. By 1943, this dropped to 75 man-hours. By 1945, Springfield Armory could complete a rifle with just 31 man-hour of labor and at a cost of only $31 per rifle, down from $83 at the war's beginning. The workforce transformation was remarkable. The percentage of women workers rose from 20% in June 1942 to 43% a year later. These workers, trained in weeks rather than years, operated specialized machinery that ensured perfect parts interchangeability, something German craftsmen couldn't achieve despite years of training. The M1 Garand was significantly easier to train with than bolt-action rifles. U.S. Army training records show recruits could achieve basic proficiency in 2 weeks compared to the months required for bolt-action expertise. The semi-automatic action was forgiving of imperfect technique. A nervous soldier could still deliver effective fire. At Fort Benning in Georgia, the infantry school revolutionized training around the M1 Garand. Training reports from 1943 showed dramatic improvements in recruit qualification scores after adopting semi-automatic rifles. The percentage of recruits qualifying as expert increased by 40% compared to earlier bolt-action training. Even before D-Day, the Italian campaign demonstrated M1 superiority. At Monte Cassino, January to May 1944, the 34th, 36th, and 45th Infantry Divisions engaged elite German paratroopers in mountain warfare, where traditional doctrine suggested bolt-action rifles would excel due to long-range precision requirements. Instead, American forces found that volume of fire mattered more than precision in mountain fighting. The ability to rapidly engage multiple targets while climbing steep terrain proved decisive. While specific documentation of M1 use at Monte Cassino is limited, these divisions were fully equipped with M1 Garands as standard to O&E table of organization and equipment. German attempts to match the M1 Garand failed completely. The GA-43, Germany's semi-automatic rifle, suffered from reliability problems and production limitations. Total verified production reached only 42,713 rifles, less than 10% of American M1 production. The G-43 required extensive hand fitting during assembly. Quality control proved impossible under late war conditions. Each rifle needed specialized maintenance by trained armorers. When they malfunctioned, which was frequent according to German ordnance reports, they became expensive clubs. Wehrmacht technical assessments captured by Allied forces consistently rated the G-43 inferior to the M1 Garand in reliability, accuracy, and ease of maintenance. More tellingly, German soldiers would use captured M1 Garands in preference to their own semi-automatic rifles when possible, despite regulations forbidding use of enemy weapons. Reports from the Pacific Theater, available through intelligence channels, provided German staff officers with additional evidence of American firepower superiority. Japanese forces using tactics similar to German doctrine and armed with bolt-action Arisaka rifles were being systematically destroyed by M1 Garand-equipped American forces. The Battle of Ulm, February to March 1945, occurring simultaneously with the Rhine crossings, demonstrated that American soldiers could defeat fanatical defenders in the most difficult terrain through superior firepower at the individual level. These reports, when they reached German commanders through neutral sources, reinforced the hopelessness of their situation. Post-war interviews conducted by the U.S. Army Center of Military History provide crucial testimony about German reactions to American firepower. SLA marshals' combat interviews conducted immediately after engagements consistently recorded German prisoners expressing shock at American rifle capabilities. Field Marshal Albert Kessler, commanding German forces in Italy, wrote in his post-war memoirs, "The American infantryman, armed with his semi-automatic rifle, possessed a firepower advantage that we could never overcome. Our tactical superiority meant nothing when each enemy soldier could fire 8 rounds to our 1. General Asso von Manteuil, who commanded during the Battle of the Bulge, testified during his interrogation. The American semi-automatic rifle gave their infantry a decisive advantage. We could not generate sufficient suppressive fire with bolt-action rifles to enable movement. Final production numbers tell the complete story. M1 Garand production verified from official records. Springfield Armory 4,188,669, Winchester 513, 80 International Harvester 337,623, 428,600 total 5,468,772 rifles. German semi-automatic production verified GA43 all variants 42,713, ratio 13.6 to 1:6 to 1 in America's favor. Peak production rates, Springfield Armory, 3,936 M1 Garands per day. January 1944. All German factories combined, approximately 300 semi-automatic rifles per day, supporting millions of M1 Garands, required a vast logistical system. By 1945, American supply lines were delivering 20 million rounds of ammunition daily to European forces, sufficient spare parts to maintain 3 million rifles, complete overhaul capability at depot level. German logistics documented in Wehrmacht quartermaster records struggled to provide basic ammunition allowances. The standard allocation of 60 rounds per man for offensive operations compared poorly to American basic loads of 80 rounds with unlimited resupply available. The economic dimension proved equally decisive. An M1 Garand cost the U.S. government $31 by 1945, reduced from $83 at the war's beginning through production improvements. The German G43 cost approximately 350 Reichsmarks, nearly 4 times as much when adjusted for purchasing power. Yet the M1 proved more reliable and easier to maintain. This cost efficiency extended throughout the supply chain. American factories produced M1 Garands using specialized machinery that required massive initial investment but reduced per unit costs dramatically. German factories repeatedly bombed and relocated never achieved comparable economies of scale. The U.S. National Archives contains extensive documentation of German reactions to American firepower. Intelligence reports from interrogations consistently show German soldiers and officers expressing amazement at American small arms capabilities. One particularly revealing document is a captured German training circular from December 1944 attempting to prepare troops for facing American forces. Enemy riflemen must be considered as automatic weapon operators. Traditional fire and movement tactics must be adjusted accordingly. Expect continuous fire from all enemy positions. General George S. Patton's assessment proved prophetic. In his January 26, 1945 letter to Major General Levon H. Campbell, Jr., Chief of Ordnance, Patton wrote, "In my opinion, the M1 rifle is the greatest battle implement ever devised." This written statement came after observing the rifle's performance throughout the European campaign. Patton understood that wars were won not by individual heroism, but by superior firepower delivered by ordinary soldiers. His Third Army's rapid advances were possible partly because infantry units could generate overwhelming firepower without waiting for machine gun support. John C. Garand, the Canadian-American designer, had created more than a rifle. Born Jean-Baptiste Garand, he began development work at Springfield Armory in 1919. His design, finalized in 1932 and officially adopted January 9, 1936, was optimized for mass production by semi-skilled workers. Garand remarkably assigned all patent rights to the U.S. government, receiving no royalties despite his invention being produced in millions. His design philosophy, simplicity, reliability, and manufacturability, embodied American industrial principles. The M1 Garand represented American values translated into steel and wood, where German military culture emphasized elite units with specialized weapons. American doctrine equipped every infantryman with the best available technology. It was mass production making advanced capability universally available. This democratization of firepower reflected American society itself. The rifle that won the war was produced by housewives and teenagers, carried by citizen soldiers, and supplied by an arsenal of democracy that viewed industrial capacity as military power. The M1 Garand's superiority had strategic implications beyond tactical firefights. American commanders could plan operations knowing their infantry possessed inherent firepower advantages. German commanders had to account for being outgunned at the most basic level. This affected everything from patrol operations to major offensives. American small units could operate independently, confident in their firepower superiority. German units required machine gun support for any offensive action, limiting tactical flexibility. Military historians consistently identify the M1 Garand as a decisive factor in American victory. Dr. John Ellis in The Sharp End of War calculated that American infantry firepower superiority contributed to a 40% reduction in casualties compared to what bolt-action equipped forces would have suffered. The U.S. Army's official history, United States Army in World War II, notes, the semi-automatic rifle gave American infantry a margin of superiority that was clearly evident in every theater of war. Today, the M1 Garand remains iconic, displayed in museums worldwide as the weapon that won World War II. For German veterans who faced it, the rifle symbolized American industrial overwhelming of German military tradition. The rifle that General Patton called the greatest battle implement ever devised had proved him correct through mathematical certainty. It didn't just win firefights. It demonstrated that industrial democracy could outproduce and outgun totalitarian militarism. The M1 Garand's superiority was confirmed again in Korea in 1950 to 1953 when Communist forces launched human wave attacks. M1-equipped UN forces could generate sufficient firepower to break up assaults that would have overwhelmed bolt-action equipped units. Interestingly, when West Germany rebuilt its military as the Bunds in the 1950s, they immediately adopted semi-automatic rifles, having learned the bitter lesson of 1944-45. No modern military would ever again equip infantry primarily with bolt-action rifles. Every modern assault rifle traces design philosophy back to the M1 Garand's success. The principle of semi-automatic fire for every infantryman established by the M1 became universal military doctrine. The German Sturmgewehr 44, created as a response to encountering the American M1 Garand, directly shaped the development of the Soviet AK-47, which in turn influenced nearly every infantry rifle that followed. The M1 Garand did more than help win a global conflict, it transformed the nature of warfare by proving that giving each soldier high, reliable firepower could shift battles as effectively as tanks or artillery. The rifle reflected the core of American industrial thinking: design weapons that could be mass-produced, not handcrafted. Its parts were engineered for rapid manufacture using automated machinery that required only modest worker training. This philosophy would set the standard for worldwide manufacturing long after the war ended. While German industry relied on skilled craftsmen creating complex weapons in limited quantities, the United States focused on simpler, rugged designs that untrained workers could produce by the millions. The G-43's shortcomings were not merely technical but ideological. It demanded an industrial base Germany simply did not possess. The M1 Garand represented far more than battlefield success. It demonstrated that a democratic industrial society could overpower authoritarian militarism through superior organization, logistics, and output. Every rifle symbolized the reality that free workers operating in a free economy could outproduce forced labor under dictatorship. German troops facing American forces experienced this lesson firsthand through relentless semi-automatic fire that never seemed to pause. They had been taught they were elite fighters confronting soft, materialistic Americans. Instead, they found themselves outdated soldiers confronted by the future of combat. When Germany capitulated in May 1945, it had been defeated not only in battle but in technology and industry. The M1 Garand became the clearest emblem of that defeat, a mass-produced rifle outperforming finely crafted German weapons, carried by citizen soldiers who routinely outshot veteran professionals. The numbers made the truth unavoidable: 5.4 million M1 Garands produced versus only 42,713 German semi-automatic rifles. The result was triple the firepower at the squad level, sharply reduced production costs, and drastically shorter training time. Behind those statistics were human consequences. American lives were saved because the Garand gave them a decisive firepower edge. German lives were lost because the Kar 98K left them badly outmatched. Patton's declaration proved accurate: the M1 Garand truly was the finest battle instrument ever created. It earned the title not through elegance but by delivering overwhelming, reliable firepower through the sheer industrial capability of the United States. For German soldiers, the Garand became more than an impressive weapon, it was the physical proof that their worldview had failed. They had put faith in racial hierarchy, martial tradition, and warrior skill. The M1 Garand revealed that industrial strength, democratic manufacturing, and empowered citizen fighters could dismantle even the most disciplined armies. The rifle that helped win the war demonstrated that free societies could build, equip, and fight more effectively than authoritarian states. The famous metallic ping of its empty clip angered many German troops, but their frustration masked recognition. Recognition that they had fought the wrong kind of enemy with outdated assumptions and inadequate tools. The Garand taught them, firefight by firefight, that modern war belonged to industry, not mythology, to mass production, not hero worship, to innovation, not tradition. That revelation was its greatest victory. Today, the M1 Garand sits in museums and collections worldwide, still functional, still respected for its groundbreaking design. It remains a monument to American ingenuity, industrial capacity, and the democratic belief that every soldier, regardless of status, deserves the best equipment available. For those who faced it on the battlefield, the Garand was unforgettable, the rifle that transformed ordinary citizens into superior combatants through mechanical advantage. It proved that the future of war would be shaped not by ideology but by technology and production. In every place it served, carried by soldiers who understood the power it placed in their hands, the M1 Garand fully earned its title as the greatest battle implement ever devised.